And it sets up a short-term CR so that we only fund our government till the last business day of January, January 30th. That seats the new Republican majority in the Senate. It seats the expanded majority in the House of Representatives, and it makes us stronger in fighting this president. We will have to put him in a political straitjacket, or there won't be anything left of our Constitution by the time we elect another president. So the King Amendment's going before rules, and I hope to get it to the floor for a vote. I want you all to know what's going on here in this Congress. Some of us are putting up a fight, and I'm one of them.
And Congressman Stephen King from Iowa always puts up a fight and always tells it like it is. He joins us right now. Member of the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration and Border Security. Congressman, you know, earlier today, Josh Earnest, very weird. He stood there and he sang the praises of this bill, and he was selling it to Democrats, why Democrats should vote for it. And he said, you know, it doesn't infringe upon any of Obama's plans to make sure we're fighting global warming, doesn't infringe on any of his plans with Obamacare, blah, blah, blah. And you would think every single Republican, based on what Josh Earnest said, would say, I'm not voting for this.
Well, that's right. He's talking to Democrats, as you said, but he must forget that Republicans are also listening. And one of the things that's in the bill, if I've got my number right, is about $948 million that would be funding Health and Human Services to continue importing illegal aliens, especially juveniles, and distributing them first to the transfer centers where they had staff people and hire subcontractors, and then from there to send them, not deport them, but to bring them into the interior of the United States and distribute them to all 50 states. And they don't even let the state governors know when they're sending more illegals in who have gotten a transit slip from the Border Patrol, and they can go anywhere they want in America, and they're supposed to show up for a hearing that sets their hearing date when they apply for asylum. And they went 0 for 40 the other day in Arlington, Arlington, Texas, of those who were to show up for the hearings. If they had shown up, they might get their hearing date 4 years out. That's how bad this is. It is a colossal mess, and it looks like there's a lack of will to call this president to task for his constitutional violations. There are some that want to fight, and I give them great credit for that. But we need more than we have right now.
How does the leadership justify coming off the election that they just had, where everybody who ran on, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to replace Obamacare, we're going to make sure that this executive order is not funded, et cetera. Granted, those newly elected senators are not in the Senate yet, but what goes through the minds? What is the mindset of Boehner and McConnell to sit down with a Harry Reid and a Nancy Pelosi and a president and work this bad bill out?
You know, it's not rational, in my opinion. If anybody that was a political an analyst or looking at business models, anybody that wants to do strategy, you would look at the November 4th election results. You would know before you went to bed that night that there was a significant increase in the Republican majority in the House of Representatives, and that there would be a majority in the United States Senate. 15 new seats in the House, 9 Republican seats in the Senate, majority now of 54 votes in the Senate. You would look at that and you would think we have a president who has been running, he's run amok, and he's trampled over the Constitution, and he's run our deficit and our debt up to $18 trillion. And we will need to restrain him, and that means put him, as I said earlier, into a political straitjacket. One of those ways you'd do that would be to do continuing resolutions that strip the funding for the things that we don't want him to be doing, and we should do those in the shortest term possible, with the exception probably of national defense. So there's going to be a plan on that. But that will to do so doesn't seem to be there, Steve, and it's because leadership announced right after the elections, the morning in the 5th of November, I think you'll find
we will not shut down the government.
Right. Yeah. And that's the equivalent of there will be no boots on the ground. But we want to win the war. Now, why don't you tell me how we're going to do that?
They waved the white They waved the white flag because if you're saying there will be no government shutdown, and you have just dealt with the president who a year ago shut down the government because he said I will not negotiate, you're saying to the president, tell us what you want, King.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And I don't mean Steve King. And I don't mean Steve King. And I don't mean Steve King either.
I know, and it is. And the president has said, you know, I demand that you pass comprehensive immigration reform, pass the Senate's Gang of 8 bill. If you don't do it, I'll do it for you. He told us that in his State of the Union address as a guest in the House of Representatives.
Yep.
He doesn't
Congressman,
even walk in there without an invitation.
Congressman, keep up the fight. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much, sir.
Sure will. Thank you, Steve.
All right, Congressman Steve King, ladies and gentlemen, a great voice. And we'll be back with the Malzberg panel after the break. But first, when you get pulled over for a traffic violation or have any sort of interaction with the police, is it legal for you to record it? Could you pull out your phone or whatever? Well, find out in the next installment. This is You and the Law with the one and only Alan Dershowitz. Stay tuned.
Have you ever been stopped by a policeman for a traffic violation? Of course you have. Millions of Americans are regularly stopped by the police for traffic violations and other reasons. Now here's the question. Is it legal for you to surreptitiously hit the record button on your smartphone and tape the conversation with the police? Well, it all depends on which state you were stopped. If you were in about a dozen states like Massachusetts, California, or Florida, don't go near your record button. In Massachusetts, the top court has ruled that recording a policeman is a crime unless you tell the cop you're doing it. Many states have privacy laws that make secret recording of anyone illegal. And in some states, you're free to record the policemen in the exercise of their duty, but not to record other ordinary citizens. Illinois passed a draconian law saying that if you tape a police officer on the job, you could face as much as 15 years in prison. An appellate court overturned the law, and the Supreme Court upheld that specific ruling, but it failed to rule on the issue as a whole. The Massachusetts case was particularly egregious because the cops were spouting racist talk to an African-American driver who recorded the conversation to protect himself. Instead of the cop being fired, the victim of the racist talk was prosecuted. Bad decision, but it's still the law in that state. In 38 states like New York and Virginia, it's legal to turn on the record button, but don't do it. In general, I advise you not to, because if the policeman catches you, he might figure out some way of getting even. And don't forget that in almost all states, it's legal for the police to audio and videotape you. Many police, even on traffic stops, have microphones attached to their body and are recording your comments. In other places, the police have video on the hood of their car and they're recording your movements. So don't forget that fact and remember your state laws and act accordingly. I'm Alan Dershowitz for Newsmax TV.